DNA of a Millionaire, getting people to take action. Giving a deadline fuels three separate and very important psychological motivations for fostering action. First, a task will expand or contract depending on how much time you allow for it. The world operates on deadlines and expiration dates. If there's no immediate need to move forward, most people will not. Could you imagine if we had no deadlines for our credit cards, mortgage, or car payments? How many of us would really pay these on time? If human nature were to wait until conditions become more favorable, or until we have better information, or until we are in a better mood or a crisis before we ever take action, it is important to give a clear-cut deadline. Let's deal with customers, for example. Customers know that action must be taken now, because they may not have a chance to act later. This invokes another psychological motivation technique, because we do not like our freedom restricted. Whenever we're told that we cannot or cannot do, we want to desire it more. So by letting a person know that they may not get an opportunity in the future, you create a larger incentive toward acting now. This technique is often used in furniture stores or car dealerships, where they add "sold" to their items. They do it for this very reason. You see, when you see a sold tag on something, we are subconsciously driven to desire it more. Then when we find out there is something similar to it available, we jump to the opportunity to purchase it. Consistent with this law is that numerous studies show that humans are driven to things that are scarce and that are becoming even scarcer. I'm sure that we can find this to be true in our own lives. I remember recently going to a well-known furniture store and seeing a picture that I somewhat wanted, sitting on the cashier desk. And it wasn't until I found out that it was sold that I wanted it even more. Huh? Go figure. When something is the newest, the hottest, or the latest, everybody wants it. It becomes that much more desirable. A perfect example of that is the Nintendo Wii. In a book by Adam Brandenburger and Barry Nalbuff called Co-opetition, they say that even as the demand took off, Nintendo remained cautious about flooding the market. It strictly controlled how many copies of the game were produced and pulled its own games off the market as soon as interest declined. The shortages helped create even more consumer demand and made headlines in the news. Tonight's top story: Nintendo sold game cartridges to all those that wanted them. Details at 11. Now that might sound funny, but it's true. The shortages generated tremendous publicity for Nintendo, a company known to being quite stingy in the advertising, only spending 2% of its revenue in a division where most big companies spend anywhere from 10 to 20%. The shortages helped retailers sell less popular Nintendo games because parents would buy lower selling titles, and if the one the kid wanted was sold out, of course, this was only a temporary solution, what we call the Band-Aid effect. The substitution might tie the kid over for Christmas to New Year's, but the kids tend to remember these sorts of things, so parents would have to return for the sold-out title once the fresh supplies came in. Nintendo made 2 sales instead of 1. And just to hammer this point home one further, one does not need to look no further than in September of 2009, total cumulative global sales for game consoles worldwide for Xbox 360 were 22 million, PlayStation 3, 16.8 million, and Nintendo Wii, 34.4 million. These companies understand these psychological motivation strategies and always make sure that the demand is higher than the supply, not the other way around. When the window of opportunity continues to shrink, we are driven to want it more. The bottom line is, ladies and gentlemen, we place value on what is scarce.